What's up guys, my name is Andy. I'm standing in my engine bay because there's no motor in it. So I'm going to take this opportunity to take care of some of the projects and tasks that are a lot easier to do with the motor out. Let me show you what I'm going to do. So you probably saw in a previous video that I pulled the motor out of this car, or how not to pull the motor out of this car. And now that that motor's out, I want to take care of some things that are a lot easier to do with the motor out. One of them being these cowl braces. I could have cut them out back when I did the export brace. I just didn't get to it, and you know, really you can do it with the motor in place. I just wanted to have it other way, so when I'm cutting and grinding all that kind of stuff, I'm not getting anything on the motor, but you can do it with the motor in place. So I want to get those taken care of. I am going to get rid of the clutch cable option that I have here. I went with this when I was installing that T5 transmission, mostly because of budget. It's a couple $100 cheaper to do the cable option versus the hydraulic option. And with the motor out, it's a lot easier to drill the holes in the firewall and get everything set up for that hydraulic clutch with the motor out. On my last car, I have a video installing the hydraulic setup, and you can do it. It's just easier with everything out of the way. So I'm going to take care of that. I've got some wiring that I need to clean up here. I really like to get rid of kind of this rat's nest that I have up here and thin this out so some of this stuff will go away. And I really want to just kind of clean up the engine bay and get it prepared and ready for when we put the motor back in. The first thing I'm going to do is that clutch cable option, and the easiest way to get underneath the dash really is to move the seat. So we'll get this guy out of the way. There's just 4 1/2-inch nuts underneath the car that let this out. Now we can get underneath the dash. I'm going to skip all the details, but you need to take the brake light switch off of the brake pedal if you have that on there. And then on this side, we need to disengage this whole clutch cable bracket system that's on the side of the clutch cable, and we'll pull that out through the firewall. Getting to this clevis pin up here can be a little tight. Let's see if we can, oh, that was easy. All right. So now we can just take apart this pin, and then we'll pull this out. Now we can pull everything else out from the firewall side. Next thing we're gonna do is get this master cylinder out of the way, and there's just 2 9/16 bolts holding that in. And this guy can just kind of drop out of the way for now. It's not hurting anything, just to hang from the brake lines. And then I got another bolt holding the bracket in. And this bracket can just come out of place here. And now that because we disconnected everything off the clutch pedal, this can just come right out of the car now. I'm gonna go ahead and just leave this free hanging for right now, because to do the master cylinder for the hydraulic clutch, it has to be done over here in the firewall. So if I can move this out of the way as I'm getting everything prepared, that's probably the easiest way to do it. And in addition to keeping this master cylinder out of the way, I need to get this brake distribution block moved too. So I'm gonna have to take the screw out and maybe move it further down the wall, because that hydraulic master cylinder for the clutch is gonna sit right in here. I'm going to take a quick break from installing the master cylinder for the clutch and actually remove these cowl brace pieces. It's kind of in the way for getting in there and doing that, and I want to move them anyways, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. You know, I got one on each side, and this is something that you guys probably know better than me on how to remove these. You know, they've got some spot welds in here. I've got a spot weld drill bit tool that I'm going to use. You know, you could just cut this piece off and grind it smooth, because having this piece on there isn't hurting anything. It's not in the way of anything. But I believe the correct way is to go ahead and get them removed all the way. I'm never going to go back to this style. I'm always going to have the export brace on here, or something better than that down the road if I get that far. But I don't need these anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and cut them off, or drill them off first. So I'm going to get my drill bit out. I'm going to drill a little hole in here for the pilot piece of that spot weld tool bit to sit into, and see if I can get this done. Yeah, this may not be the best way to do it, but this is how I'm going to do it. So that wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. I thought I was gonna struggle a little bit more. I did bust through one of the drill bits. I had to put another one on there. I don't know what I was hitting, but it was tearing up the bit. But anyways, you saw that comes off. So I'm gonna go ahead and grind these edges down, grind the spot welds just down real flat, and then I'll just hit this some paint on here just to protect that metal. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side. And this side went a little easier. I didn't drill as deep a holes, which is a lot better. It's one of those things you just kind of have to feel when you're doing it. And you'll kind of feel go through that first layer of steel. So I did a better job on this, and then I went ahead and wire brushed, just got it cleaned up. I'm gonna go ahead and hit some paint on this when I get done here. And again, I cleaned up the other side, got it all ready to go. Cool, so now we can go back to the clutch setup. So the next thing you want to do is unplug the harness that's here on the firewall and clean up this area below it. And there's actually kind of a natural bend right here. So you want to, down to there, you want to clean to that. And there's also a bend right here as it goes around the corner. And just make a piece of tape that sits on here and will stick on there, because we need to stick this on there. Now to do this, you just put some tape over the spacer, over this guy. And then you can create the same shape of that on the sticker. And then we're going to place this on here. But before we do that, we want to put this on there and this bracket like that, because we want to use this flat edge to be flush against this fender wall here. And when we do that, we place this on here, and you want to be about 1/8 of an inch below this plug with the spacer. And we're going to want to trace on the green sticker that's on the firewall right now where this is. And by doing that, that'll give us a place to put this. And then I went ahead and put holes, just a little mark hole, where we're going to drill the centers of these holes with the drill bit. Then we can go back and drill it out larger on the firewall. I'm not really going into a lot of detail on how to do this because I have a whole video on installing this hydraulic clutch. I'm just showing you kind of the basics of this. So we'll just get this done and then we'll be ready to install this spacer on the firewall. Now that we got these larger holes drilled for the fasteners that go in the spacer, I left this hole just that size because I'm going to use a hole saw to cut that out, but I want to put the spacer in first. So you're going to probably want some help, have somebody hold this on this side of the firewall while you come in through the cabin and install these screws from the back side by the pedal assembly. Once you get this in place, then you can use a hole saw drill bit, use this as a guide, and drill at the hole inside the firewall for the master cylinder to fit through. Now that we got this firmly fastened to the firewall with the bolts on the other side, and I also bolted in the bracket that's going to connect to the clutch pedal, you'll see that in a little bit. We want to go ahead and drill the hole through the firewall. We're going to again use this spacer as a bushing to guide this through and drill this hole. And because of the limited distance and everything, I'm going to use this tool to kind of get in there and drill this hole. We'll get it on the other side. So this is where we're going to want to go ahead and install the master cylinder on here. We can go ahead and secure it on these two posts and tighten everything down, except I've got some other work I want to do first before I get to installing this, so we're going to come back to this in a minute. The next thing I want to do is install this slave cylinder on the side of the bell housing. And to do that, I need a bracket to put this slave cylinder right here so it actuates the clutch lever. Modern Driveline makes a real slick bracket right here that allows you to just put this on here like so, and then you can bolt the slave cylinder to this bracket and it'll actuate the clutch just like the cable does that I have in the car now. And the nice thing about this setup is that you don't need to remove the bell housing from the car to drill these holes. In my video that I installed this in the previous car, I left this in the car and was able to drill the holes in place and mount everything and get it all done. But now that I've got this out of the car, I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of that and just go ahead and get this drilled up. So I'll finish with that slave cylinder on the bell housing when I put the motor back in and the transmission back in, and I'll hook up the lines and all that kind of stuff. So now I'm gonna switch another gear back to this wiring setup and cleaning up the engine bay that way. What I've got here is this wire harness, and I don't know, the specifics of the wires here, but that's okay, that doesn't matter. What I wanna do is get them out of the engine bay, and I'm actually gonna run them through the fender wall here, and I'm gonna come out right back here and where it plugs into the firewall. And I've got this hole up front that we can go ahead and we can put this connector will fit through there, but this goes right into the headlight hole back here. So I'm gonna have to drill a hole inside the fender behind the headlight bucket, and then I'm gonna drill a hole in the fender wall over here so the harness can come back out, and then I'll go ahead and plug it back in there in the firewall. In addition to that, I also wanna clean up what's going on over here. I think for now, I'm gonna move this starter solenoid back here. I'm gonna install it on the fender wall down there. And so that means it's gonna change some of the wire lengths. The biggest thing being these wires right here. Right now, I'm gonna have to route them through the fender wall, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna come over and I'm gonna come out on this side. I think my power wire that I've got coming from the batteries in the trunk, that can be shortened up because I'll come through the fender wall over here. And so cleaning up this stuff, getting these relays out of here that I've kind of got tucked underneath that you really can't see, but they are there. Get this stuff out of this way. So there's no wires really over here. There's not gonna be any wires on this side. And kind of not really like a wire tuck, but just cleaning up and thinning up the wires so there's not as much, mess going on with those wires. All right, so we got that coming through there. I got some things I want to clean up, but I know that the plug will reach, so that's good. I'm gonna probably put some of that loom on the outside when it runs inside the fender here, just so there's no rocks and grime and stuff get on the wiring, but we should be all right over there. For these wires, I want to just start taking this stuff apart, and I want to label where these wires go. This goes on the S terminal for the starter solenoid, and let's see here. Okay, I know both of these go to my relays, so I can hold on to that for a second. I gotta make this longer, and actually, I'm gonna have to reconnect these over there. So like this one, I know that it's got this yellow wire to yellow wire connection, so that one is just gonna be part of this. I gotta extend all of this. I'm gonna route it through the fender and then come back in on the back side over there. This has got this. In the lingo, this is a B+, because it's just a straight coming off of the battery. This is the battery. This would normally be the battery terminal, and then here's the big power wire that we ran from the trunk. So I'm going to have to redo this and shorten it, and then I'll come out over there. And there's just one of these wires. This is the wire that goes to the starter. So I'm going to just set this to the side. I might have to get a short one because I don't have to go as far to the starter now. This one just goes to the I terminal of the starter solenoid, so we'll just put that label on here. And then these are giving a switched source to these relays, and so I'm going to have to redo this when I set that up on the other side. And now we just take the screws out that are holding the starter solenoid to the firewall or to the fender lining, and I'll drill some holes over there to just remount this in the same manner. And for the rest of this stuff, I need to take apart this wire loom to pull the wires out of here, because there are some that are going to go to the starter solenoid and some that are going to be part of the new relay setup that I'm going to have. So I think we'll leave this ground wire. This just goes to the engine block. Leave this for now. And then all this stuff here connects to the alternator, so we'll leave that for now. And then this whole part of it, we're just gonna run through the fender wall here, run it around, and then we'll poke out the other side. All right, guys, I spared you the misery of watching me do all the wiring. That was a couple hours this weekend of just getting the wires all done up and redoing a bunch of stuff. So what I did is I moved the starter solenoid back there, and then I got the wires rerouted, and I had to add some new wires and tuck some stuff in over here. And then, you know, for the power wire for the electric fans, I had to route that underneath the fender like I did the other wire harness, stuff like that. So quite a bit of wiring this weekend. Just, again, a couple hours of just doing that and just chipping away at it. I was fortunate that I had all the wire here, but if not, usually, you know, you go into the store, it slows you down, that kind of stuff. So here's just a quick look at just, you know, the wiring, just kind of ran it underneath the fender here and just tucked it up against the side so that the tire doesn't hit it, and it's covered in the, you know, that loom so that, you know, the water and whatever, you know, road grime and stuff like that doesn't get to the wires and affect that stuff. So guys, that pretty much takes care of that. I still got to put the master cylinder in for the hydraulic clutch, but without the motor being here, there's no point in finishing that up right this second because I got to put everything in and then bleed the system, do all that kind of stuff. I also have to put the brake master cylinder back in place, but I do want to kind of clean up that area. It is dirt over there, so I want to wash all that out and get all that grime out of there, vacuum out the shavings from the drilling the holes and stuff. And same thing on this side. I got a lot of cleaning I got to do. I got to touch up some paint and some spots, so I'll take care of that. But that's pretty much what I want to do to get this engine bay ready for the motor. So again, guys, this is a good opportunity with the engine out to take care of some of the stuff that you've been wanting to do, but with the engine in the way, it does make it difficult. You know, I still have, like I said, I got a couple more things I want to do to just wrap this up. You know, another thing you can do, for those of you that are thinking maybe doing a larger radiator for your setup, having the engine out sure does make it a lot easier to get to this panel and doing what you need to do there. So that's something to think about. And again, anything else that you may want to do just to either clean things up or move things to a different location or modify something, it sure does make it a lot easier with the engine out. And so just something to think about when you guys are there. So guys, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. And if you subscribe, I appreciate it because it helps my channel out. And we'll see you in the next one.